Colonel Jack Hares sat in his office at Area 59, scrolling through an endless stream of reports on his holographic display. His rugged face bore its usual smirk, a hallmark of his unshakable confidence. Jack was no stranger to intrigue. His career had introduced him to more than a few eccentric characters, but today he was anticipating someone unique, someone the whispers suggested was anything but ordinary. The door slid open, and Jack's eyes lifted, locking on to the striking figure that entered. Commander MAA. Her dossier hadn't done her justice. Tall, exuding an air of authority that commanded attention, her uniform accentuated her poised stature. Her sharp green eyes and neatly tied auburn hair gave her a striking allure, but there was something more. A quiet magnetism he couldn't quite define. "Colonel Hares," she greeted, extending a hand. Her voice was smooth, carrying a faint trace of amusement, as though she already knew she held the upper hand. Jack stood, gripping her hand firmly. "Commander MAA, to what do I owe the pleasure?" "Intelligence exchange," she replied, her gaze steady. "Our governments agree it's time to collaborate on shared security concerns. I'm here to bridge the gap." Jack chuckled, his smirk deepening. "Bridge the gap, huh? Sounds diplomatic. And what exactly does this exchange entail?" MAA leaned in slightly, the barest hint of a smile on her lips. "Collaboration, Colonel. Perhaps over dinner." Jack's eyes gleamed with mischief. "Dinner, you say? I'm not opposed. But fair warning, I'm not easily impressed." Her head tilted playfully. "Oh, I enjoy a challenge." That evening, Jack found himself in the officers' mess, seated across from MAA at a secluded table. The dim lighting cast a warm, intimate glow. He wasn't sure what to make of her, too confident perhaps, but undeniably intriguing. "You're not like the others," he remarked, sipping his drink. "Most diplomats are all business. You've got spark." May's eyes danced with amusement. "And you're not like the others either, Colonel. Most soldiers are predictable." Jack leaned back, a grin tugging at his mouth. "Is that a compliment?" "Perhaps," she teased, her tone light. "Or just an observation." Their conversation flowed effortlessly, a subtle dance of wit and charm. Jack found himself enjoying her company far more than he had anticipated. Beneath her calculated demeanor was warmth, a spark that kept him on edge. As the evening wore on, Jack couldn't shake the sense that MAA was more than she seemed. There was an edge to her, a depth that fascinated him. He wasn't one to be easily swayed, but something about her drew him in. "A mystery, Commander MAA," he said, his gaze unwavering. "One I wouldn't mind unraveling." For a moment her smile faltered, something unspoken flickering between them. "Perhaps, Colonel, some mysteries are better left unsolved," she replied, though her eyes betrayed a hint of vulnerability. When they parted ways, Jack felt a strange anticipation. Maye was unlike anyone he'd ever met, and he had a gut feeling their paths were destined to intertwine far more than either had planned. Back in his quarters, her image lingered in his mind. Meanwhile, aboard her ship, the Nivra, M.A. stared out at the stars. Her mission was clear, but the boundaries between duty and desire were beginning to blur. Jack Hares was more than a target. He was an unexpected complication. As much as she tried to push the thought away, she couldn't ignore the pull he had on her. Jack, too, wrestled with the growing connection. His instincts rarely failed him, and something about MAA told him she was hiding more than she let on. The question was, could he trust her? More importantly, could he trust himself around her? The stakes were high, and Jack knew the next steps would change everything. Days later, he found himself aboard his spacecraft, preparing for a covert reconnaissance mission. Classified and joint, the operation was to investigate strange energy readings in the nearby asteroid belt. He wasn't thrilled about having a civilian, let alone an alien commander, on board. But orders were orders. "Strap in, Commander," he said, his voice steady. Jack glanced over his shoulder as MAA settled into the co-pilot seat. "This ride's going to get bumpy." MAA raised an eyebrow, a sly smile curving her lips. "I think I can handle a little turbulence, Colonel." Jack couldn't help but grin. "We'll see about that." As the ship launched into the vast expanse of space, the tension between them grew palpable. The cockpit was cramped, their close proximity amplifying the simmering undercurrent that had been present since their first meeting. "You're awfully quiet today," Jack remarked, deftly maneuvering the controls. "Something on your mind?" May turned to face him, her green eyes sparkling with mischief. "Just enjoying the view," she replied, her gaze lingering on him just a moment too long. Jack chuckled, shaking his head. "You're a piece of work, MAA. And you're not as unreadable as you think, Jack," she countered, her voice softening. "I see the way you look at me." His smirk faded, replaced by a serious expression. "You're not making this easy, you know." "Neither are you," MIA admitted, her tone sincere. "This mission, it's complicated." Jack sighed, leaning back slightly in his seat. "Tell me about it." The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken thoughts. Jack's mind raced, torn between duty and the undeniable pull he felt toward her. He knew the risks, not just to the mission, but to himself. Yet he couldn't push her out of his mind. An alarm suddenly blared, snapping them both out of their thoughts. "We've got company," Jack announced, his tone sharp and focused. "Looks like a patrol ship." MARA leaned forward, her demeanor shifting instantly. "Can we outrun them?" "Not in this bucket," Jack muttered, his fingers flying over the controls. "Hang on." As Jack expertly maneuvered the spacecraft, MAIO couldn't help but be impressed. Despite the danger, there was a thrill to the chase, a reminder of why she had been drawn to him in the first place. "You're good at this," she remarked, genuine admiration in her voice. "Comes with the territory," Jack replied, his focus unwavering. "If you've got any tricks up your sleeve, now's the time." May A smiled, activating a holographic interface on her wrist. "Let's just say I have a few surprises." Within moments, the patrol ship's sensors scrambled, buying them precious time to evade. Jack exhaled a sigh of relief, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. "Nice work," he said, casting her a sideways glance. "You really are full of surprises." "You have no idea," MAA replied, her tone playful again. As they drifted into a safe zone, the adrenaline began to wear off, leaving them both acutely aware of how close they were. The cockpit seemed smaller now, the air between them charged with unspoken intensity. "Jack," MAA began, her voice barely above a whisper. "About earlier." "Yeah?" Jack prompted, his eyes locking onto hers. Before he could react, MAA leaned in, her lips meeting his in a kiss that was both unexpected and inevitable. Jack didn't pull away. Instead, he deepened the kiss, his hands instinctively finding her waist. In that moment, the cockpit, the mission, the galaxy, they all faded away, leaving only the two of them lost in the heat of the moment. The kiss was a collision of desire and restraint, a silent acknowledgement of the connection they could no longer deny. When they finally broke apart, Jack's breath was ragged, his heart pounding in his chest. That was unexpected. Enome's cheeks flushed a deeper shade of purple, her usual composure momentarily shaken. "I couldn't help myself," she admitted, her voice hushed. "You have a way of getting under my skin." "Funny," Jack said, a small smile tugging at his lips. "I was just about to say the same thing." For a moment they sat in silence, the weight of what had just happened settling between them. Jack knew they'd crossed a line, one that couldn't be undone. But as he looked into MAA's eyes, he couldn't bring himself to regret it. "MAA," he said, his tone serious, "this changes things." "I know," she replied, her gaze unwavering, "but I'm willing to take the risk if you are." Jack nodded, a sense of resolve washing over him. "Then let's see where this goes." Together. Their eyes met again, this time with no hesitation. Jack pulled her close, their lips meeting in a deeper, more passionate kiss. The boundaries between them blurred as the cockpit seemed to vanish around them. Ma's hand slid up Jack's chest, her touch igniting a shiver that ran down his spine. He responded by pulling her onto his lap, their bodies fitting together as though they were meant to be. Each kiss grew more urgent, more consuming, the heat between them undeniable. Jack's fingers tangled in her hair, pulling her closer as their breasts mingled. MAA's hands roamed over his body, savoring the feel of his strength beneath her touch. The galaxy outside ceased to exist, leaving only the two of them in their own universe of desire. Finally, they pulled apart, breaths ragged as they struggled to steady themselves. Melia rested her forehead against Jack's, a soft smile playing on her lips. "I guess we've crossed the point of no return," MAA whispered. Jack chuckled, his hands still resting on her hips. "Yeah, but I wouldn't have it any other way." The Nivra drifted silently in orbit above Earth, its sleek design casting a faint shadow over the blue planet below. Inside, MAA paced the control room, her thoughts a whirlwind of conflict. Her mission was clear: gain Earth's trust and pave the way for the Ven's subtle infiltration. But Jack Hares had complicated everything. Stopping at the viewport, she gazed down at Earth. The Ven Council had always viewed the planet as a resource to exploit, its people naive and easily manipulated. But Jack had shown her something else: strength, resilience, and, most troubling of all, a capacity for genuine connection. Her communicator chirped, breaking her thoughts. She hesitated before answering. "This is Commander MAA." "Commander, it's Vin," came the voice of her second-in-command. "The Council is expecting your report. Shall I patch them through?" MAA's hand tightened around the device. "Not yet. I need more time." "Understood," Vin replied, though his tone carried concern. "But you know they won't wait forever." As the line went dead, the weight of her decisions bore down on her. She couldn't ignore her growing feelings for Jack or the truth. She didn't want to see Earth fall. Later that night, she found herself standing outside Jack's quarters. The door slid open, and Jack greeted her with a mix of surprise and warmth. "May, what brings you here?" "We need to talk," she said, stepping inside. The room was modest, reflecting Jack's no-nonsense personality. He gestured for her to sit, but she remained standing, her gaze searching his. "Jack, I haven't been completely honest with you," she began, her voice unsteady. "My mission, it's not what you think." Jack's expression hardened, unreadable. "Go on." She took a deep breath, her heart pounding. "I was sent to undermine your command, to make Earth vulnerable to the Ven. But things have changed. You've changed them. I can't go through with it." Jack stood, his gaze intense. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I care about you," MA admitted, her voice trembling. "And because I can't stand by and watch your world be destroyed. I want to help you stop the invasion." Jack's eyes softened, and he stepped closer, placing a hand on her shoulder. "I suspected you were hiding something, but I also saw the good in you. I believe you." Relief washed over her, a glimmer of hope she hadn't felt in weeks. "Thank you, Jack. I know it won't be easy, but together, we can find a way." They spent the next hours crafting a plan to sabotage the Ven's invasion from within. Imariari would feed false intelligence to her superiors, buying Earth time to bolster its defenses. It was a dangerous gamble, but one they were both willing to take. As dawn broke, Jack turned to her, his expression serious. "You're risking everything for us." "For me?" "Why?" NMAA reached out, cupping his cheek. "Because you've given me something I thought I'd lost. A sense of belonging. A reason to fight for something more than duty." Jack leaned in, their foreheads touching. "We'll get through this. Together." Their lips met in a tender kiss, a silent promise for the battles ahead. The road would be dangerous, but with each other, they had a chance. Watching the sunrise over Earth, MOA felt a renewed purpose. She'd found something worth fighting for. Someone worth fighting for. For the first time, she was ready to defy the odds. The Ven's invasion loomed, but with Jack by her side, she knew they could overcome anything. Together, they would forge a new path, one where love and unity triumphed over conquest and division. The Ven Council's holographic forms shimmered into view aboard the Nivra, their cold expressions fixed on her. "Commander Emiai," the lead counselor intoned, his voice sharp, "we await your report on Earth's readiness and the feasibility of our plan." MAA took a deep breath, her mind racing. This was the moment to act, for herself, for Jack, and for Earth's future. "Honorable Council," she began, her voice steady, "I must advise against proceeding with the invasion of Earth." The Council members exchanged wary glances, their suspicion growing. "Explain yourself," the lead counselor demanded. "Earth's inhabitants are far more resilient than anticipated," MAA continued, unwavering. Their ingenuity and spirit have been underestimated. An invasion would be met with fierce resistance and could ultimately lead to our undoing. Another counselor leaned forward, his expression dark. Are you suggesting this primitive world poses a legitimate threat to the Ven Empire? I am, MAA replied firmly. Moreover, our attempts to manipulate their weaknesses have only strengthened their resolve. If we proceed, we risk uniting them against us in ways we cannot control. Silence fell, her words hanging heavily in the air. The lead counselor's piercing gaze bore into her. You speak with conviction, Commander, but one must wonder, has your time among the humans clouded your judgment? Meliai met his eyes, unflinching. On the contrary, my time here has brought clarity. The Ven's strength lies in adaptability and foresight. Ignoring Earth's potential is to invite disaster. We must reconsider our approach and pursue coexistence, not conquest. The council murmured amongst themselves, tension thick in the air. Finally, the lead counselor spoke, his tone begrudgingly respectful. Your perspective is noted, Commander. We will put the plan on hold. Until further notice, maintain your position and continue your observations. As the holograms flickered out, MAA exhaled, relief washing over her. She turned to the viewport, a small, determined smile forming. She would stay with Jack. On Earth, Jack received her encrypted message, his heart swelling with pride. Together, they would face whatever challenges came their way. If the Ven ever returned, they would stand ready, a beacon of hope against the darkness. With love and unity to guide them, they were unstoppable.